Hello again, friends. It is Brian. I will keep this quick this time, but just to let you know, you can visit voidsignal.net to help support the creation of more ad-free Void Signal by signing up for the Void Signal Patreon. All the tiers are the same, and for as little as $2 a month, you can get hours and hours of unhinged content and dialogue and discussion. In addition, Mechanismus Festival 2024 is soon approaching. I will be there for the duration of the festival, so if you see me, please feel free to say hello at my face. We can have a discourse if you like. Hugs are available, I guess. Maybe if you'd like. If you would like one, I might provide one. Aside from that, please come to the Void Signal panel, which is Thursday, June 27th at 5 p.m. in the Hereafter Theater at the Crocodile Hotel in Seattle, Washington at the Mechanismus Festival. If you have a ticket to the festival, you can get into this for free. So come say hello and eat some pie, play some trivia, have a good time. Anyway, see you there and stay safe, stay loud, take care.
Is this a little bit louder now?
Yes, much better.
Okay, cool.
Excellent.
Sweet. How's it going, man?
Pretty good. Thanks for making this work. And I know we had a bit of a hiccup, but you know.
Yeah, thank you very much for being patient with me. I swear to God, I'm usually more organized and on top of my shit, but
Sure.
These past few weeks I've been not whatsoever. I've been completely all over the place. So thanks for I appreciate it.
Likewise. Thank you for the patience. I've been a little disheveled, I guess, a little more loosey-goosey than normal of trying to balance things. But you have been trying to, just a comment really quick, you have been very busy because you just played your show like this past week or weekend. Is that right?
Yeah, today is Sunday, so a week from yesterday.
Gotcha. Okay. And that was your first time playing live at all, correct? Or
No. I mean, so it was the first time I'd headlined as Mobiius in any sort of regard where anybody cared who I was as Mobiius.
Sure.
Yeah. Like previously I'd played, back in maybe 2017, 18, 19, somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
I'd played a few shows at home in Denver, but didn't really have that much music out and didn't really have much of a draw, and was kind of part of a local artists, where they put a bunch of local artists on the bill to try to get as many people in as possible.
Sure.
A showcase. Yeah. And then I've DJ'd, I've been DJing for 14 years. So I've played gigs as not Mobiius, but yeah, this was the first time where it was kind of I got to do what I wanted, my music, this type of shit I'm into, and try to figure out how to make that into a compelling live or, dance floor experience.
Mm-hmm. Just on that note, I'm sort of curious to hear what success you would say you had doing that. Because I mean, the nature of the music that you make, along with a lot of your contemporaries, is sort of how do you transition that into a live experience where I'm not just a dude in front of a thing that pushes a couple buttons. You know what I mean? How do you make that into an experience, I guess? Is there anything in particular that you found was effective, or that you were okay, this is the shit. This is how we do this?
In terms of the technical aspect, how to make performing as a DJ more interesting, or
just what have you found
in terms of adding more?
Just in terms of taking the Mobiius sort of audio presence and making that a live thing. What changes do you feel like you had to make, if any?
But as far as making Mobiius the existing music into something compelling in a live setting, that was something that I spent a lot of time on because where to even start? We're all our own worst critics, and so I think I'm getting better at it, and it's something I've been focusing on. But I've always felt that a fair number of my tracks weren't as like dancey and fun as maybe some of my contemporaries or other music that I like. I like them, and they're good songs in their own right, but I wouldn't classify all of them as like a dance floor banger.
Sure.
So, and I also like a lot of not disparate styles, but everything from like your 80 and 90 BPM range with like halftime bass and left field bass sort of things, and just other random shit that ends up down there, like some antagonizer tracks, and then of course like house tempo and mid tempo, and then all the way up into like faster and faster techno, and then once you hit those 140s and 150s, really fast techno or bass music or drum and bass. So and which is just a lot of different shit to try to fit into a set in a way that doesn't feel jarring. So is a few dozen hours spent in record box compiling all the things I wanted to play, making sure I had enough of my own shit in there, and then piecing it together in a way where it felt like it was cohesive and made sense. And then also redoing, I made some songs specifically for the event to kind of fill holes that I saw, or it'd be like, oh, I want to play this song, but I want to make it a more dance floor friendly version. So I made a few versions of older songs that I thought would fit that better.
Gotcha. And
yeah, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. And just sort of overall, do you feel like it seemed like it went fantastic from the looks of it. You seem pretty pleased on your Instagram and everything. I'm assuming this is a thing that you would like to do more of after having done it this time.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, it was a lot of work, which I guess all good things usually come from that, but it was really rewarding after years and years, pretty much since COVID, spent sitting alone in my room in front of my computer, getting most of my interactions and feedback from music just from text messages and things like that, or DMs, to actually getting to be face to face with some people, to meet fans and people who followed me and people who knew my songs or words to my songs and were excited to meet me. And that was kind of surreal, honestly. It was like you know who I am? I guess you do, because it's like I'm headlining the show, but still it was kind of like it was a weird thing to have right in front of you. It was good though. It was really nice. Really, really just the sweetest people at that show, and the event organizer, Clark or ECL, did an amazing job bringing people together. So yeah, really, really positive experience. And ultimately, yes, I guess touring is a big financial avenue for artists. So doing more of that and getting to meet more people who are into this kind of stuff, and hopefully get on the bills with some of my other peers in the scene, and connect in real life is something that I'd really like to do heading into these next couple years.
Yeah, I agree. And just to sort of echo your sentiment, it is weird to sort of be making a thing on the internet, and you have people like it, but they are numbers. They are nebulous sort of ideas of like, this many people like my thing I did. But it feels not real until you're in a room with a person who's like, oh, this thing you did meant this to me. There's like a weird sort of a shift that happens of like, I'm not just operating in a vacuum. I'm doing a thing that affects people. I mean, it's a jarring sort of a situation. At least
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing when that happens, above like validation and like, hey, I'm not just in a bubble. That I'm not just operating in a vacuum. Yeah, you have been doing this for a couple of years now. I feel like sort of the 2017, 2018 is about the time that like yourself and Phil Gonzo and sort of a lot of other people have kind of gotten their start around similar kind of a time frames. And just real quick, like your work doing remixes and collabs have been, I've been keeping up with like your singles and everything recently, and the track with Phil Gonzo was fantastic. You've got like another one that just came out like days ago, I think.
Yeah, yesterday with
yeah,
Limbo Slice and Lazare.
yeah, and what a great fun track that was. Like, does things I was maybe not expecting. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, tons of fun.
yeah, that was definitely a step outside the comfort zone for all of us.
Mm,
But that was kind of the plan. Or like, do we think we could pull this off? Like, fucking maybe
yeah,
try it.
yeah. Try it and find out. Do you
Hmm.
worry about stagnation with the kind of music that you're making?
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had like a full blown crisis last year.
Yeah.
Right, last year. Yeah, yeah. I was just sick of it. Kind of like didn't really. I mean, I'd have to. I'll pull up Spotify and look through the releases that I was putting out at that point. But it was kind of like I felt like I'd hit a wall, like where I didn't.
Mm,
There was the things that I wanted to do, and then the things that I felt were kind of expected of me,
mm,
felt at odds with each other. Um, and I mean, there was other confounding factors, but like, yeah, I definitely was struggling a little bit with like what I wanted to do because
mm,
for since like 2020, I've been writing music that I'm hoping to eventually finally turn into the album that I've been talking about for years now because I've been working on it for years
mm,
and kind of putting more and more songs into the pool. And a lot of them are like more melodic or more lyrical and not just a straight, mid-tempo banger or house song or whatever.
mm,
So I was kind of like, how do I fit this into what I'm doing now? And that's what I've been working on that more and more, like with songs like Misbehave for Me or Alone, where I try to kind of start teasing it in a little bit so that
yeah.
people are not completely blindsided when I start coming out with more different things. Same with the
Mm,
Limbo Slice song.
mm,
So that was a big yeah, it was tough.
yeah.
And the other thing is that about a year ago I had some of my friends visit me in Japan, and they make music too and DJ. And
Mm,
so we decided to put together like a little show. Uh shit. Okay. Um as promised, I have to
oh
run
yeah.
away for
All good.
4 minutes right now.
Yeah. No
I'll
problem.
be right back and then pick back up.
Yeah.
Pick
No
back up
worries.
there. Thanks. One moment. All right. Hey Brian, I'm
Yep.
back. Thank you for waiting.
Yeah. No worries.
Um but to make for a seamless edit,
Mm-hmm.
I think I was talking about um last year.
Yeah.
Some of my friends came out to visit me in Japan, and so they also make music,
Mm,
and or DJ, and I thought it'd be fun as long as everybody was here at the same time to kind of put together an event that we could all play just for fun, like no
mm,
pressure. I knew a guy at a bar who let us have a Saturday night, and so we put together like a little event, and the theme that we decided on that would kind of like marry, like a central meeting point for all of us was like throwback dance hits and happy hardcore and hyper pop and
mm,
Euro dance, this sort of thing. Just like fun classic dance music with some weird new dance music,
mm.
because I also quite like that stuff. And
Sure.
that was an amazing night. It happened to just it was like at a peak season in the spring when everybody was coming to see the cherry blossoms, and so we got a ton of people in the door. It was packed. Everybody was having fun. I had a lot of fun DJing. Other people did too.
Mm, gotcha.
And oh shit, is my mic okay?
Yeah. I gotcha.
Um, and so after that, I was kind of like, man, like what the fuck? Like
Mm,
this was so much fun, and I had so much fun dancing and like play sprinkling in some crowd favorites, and the tempo and the beat and everything was so fun, and it felt very much in conflict with what I was doing with Mobiius, which I didn't think was as fun.
mm,
So uh, yeah, kind of I took a break that summer and didn't really make, or for a couple months didn't make very much Mobius music, and composed like a trance EP, like
mm,
trance and hyper trance, I guess. I don't know. just to kind of whet the palate. And a while back, I did on my podcast an interview with Swarm, and I asked him a similar question that you just asked me. Like, do you get sick of just making this kind of music? Like, does it ever feel stagnant? And he was like, nah, because I'm always finding, you know, some new hill to climb or like some new challenge. And if I like something, then I find a way to fold it into what I'm doing. Because, you know, even though his stuff sounds pretty coherent, it goes all the way from techno to mid-tempo to dubstep to,
right,
you know, whatever else.
Sure.
But still always sounds like a Swarm song. And I was like, okay, I can figure this out. So for, yeah, kind of since then, I've been piecing together how like what that looks like and how to incorporate the things that I like into what I'm doing and find new things like the Limbo Slice song, and other collabs that I have coming out later this year where I can kind of explore new things and see what's fun and what fits and
sort of shaping your sound kind of a way, kind of a sense, I guess.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That was a really long-winded response.
No, not at all. I mean, like, this is, you know, the thought process behind it is like informative of sort of how it gets made, the character and what it takes to go into it. I did want to ask, this is sort of jumping around a little bit, but that's the nature of it. I have been meaning to ask you, this is kind of unrelated to the music a little bit, but in the run up to this, looking on your website and everything, there is prose on here to read. There is lore. There is backstory. There is interesting extra things.
Oh my God, you found that.
Yeah, I certainly did. I was curious. So first off, the first thing I wanted to add is like, I like lore and like extra hidden things. But the second thing is that like, I'm also a sucker for secondhand address, second person address in short fiction. Because I find it's like a very effective way to sort of engage a reader very quickly. Just curious, what is the sort of goal or purpose behind these two little writing snippets?
Well, first off, kudos for finding them. And then B, I also find that to be, it was quite intentional. But basically, I wanted to, like, I've always kind of had a rough vision for something bigger and a desire to create like a cool universe for my music to live in because I'm a huge nerd and I love getting lost in all kinds of fantasy videos. And, I've probably watched hundreds of hours of, YouTube lore dumps on various franchises and universes. Because it's just fun. And so I really wanted to make something like that at the time. And so along with each of my single releases, it was in 2021, I started writing like a short story that somehow attached to the song, to the theme of the song. And then they always would end up in the same place in the fold, which was supposed to be kind of like a safe haven, like an accepting and safe place that didn't necessarily absolve you of your mistakes and your imperfections, but, was a place where you could kind of come to terms with them and find power in them. And this was the thesis. But the fact of the matter was that in 2021, I was just starting to release songs, like seriously. And the amount of effort and my amount of discipline at the time. It just was a lot of work to write those things on top of each song, and basically to an audience of maybe 2 people that were interested in hearing them. And I was kind of like, well, this is fun, but at the same time, it's a lot of work, and it's probably something that I could shuffle down the road until there's more people who would be interested in hearing it, and also for a time when I had like a more fleshed out vision. Because I think in addition to the, nobody really, there not being enough of an audience expressing any interest in hearing the stories, I didn't really have a fully clear vision. Like all the songs weren't finished. I didn't really see, there wasn't necessarily a clear connective fiber between all the works.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't really want to force it. And it felt I think maybe when I was trying to write the third one or the fourth one, and I was like, there's nothing incredibly deeper to this, and I don't know what to do with it. And it kind of got abandoned for unfortunately, for the time being. But like you said, like you enjoy lore and backstory and extra bits and stuff like that. And I adore things like that. I love lore, and I love it when artists have like that little bit of extra for the particularly interested to dig into and pick apart and, hide clues and stuff. I think all of that is just great fun, as well as, on stage drama and, bands like Ghost or Slipknot or Linkin Park used to do it back in the day. Heaps of bands.
I'm a big fan of that, but I do agree with you. I think it makes sense to not force a thing because, I mean, at least, and I'm sure this is probably true of, it seems to be true of like making music, but at least, my background is creative writing, like trying to force yourself to write to a thing, write to a particular prompt. Sometimes that well is dry and you are just not going to produce anything, or anything that comes out is going to be very belabored and sort of, I feel like it comes across in the work at times, and that you're just better off sort of striking when the iron is hot, when you are inspired, like, now is the time that I do it. And sort of in the absence of that, it's a thing that's probably just best left alone. But it sounds like a thing that you would be willing to come back to if it made sense, if you were sort of feeling the spark for it, maybe.
Yeah. Absolutely. It is something that I'd like to do. But you're right. I mean, if you're forcing things in any medium, I think that the audience can tell, even subconsciously, whether that's in your music or if it's in your writing or whatever else it is that you're doing. So yeah, it's something that I'd like to come back to, and hopefully something that I'll be able to do alongside my album, because unlike what I've been doing before, which is a lot of like, case by case singles, I feel like if I have a full body of work that's kind of already mapped out and already has a plot of sorts to it, which in this case is kind of a, semi-dramatic retelling of a period of my life, then there's a lot of room to expand and give more detail and more context to things that the majority of people probably wouldn't care too much about, but, some people might. And so I would like to come back to it and kind of put more Easter eggs and things out there for people, just because it's fun, and maybe more people will care now. Maybe not, but I'd like to do it anyway.
Right. And I mean, to me, that's like the reason to do most things, like, is because if you want to, like, if it's a thing that you think would be cool, then I encourage people to try and do it. Because it's worth it. It's worth it to like make a thing that you're proud of. Like, absolutely. You did mention that you your own podcast. I guess that was the thing I did not realize that you had. In my browsing of your music, I must have overlooked it. I can find like the hidden prose, but I but I missed this part. How long have you been doing that?
That's a good question. I think since the end of 2022 is when I started recording interviews, but then I discovered that I hated editing, and so the actual episodes didn't come out till like months later. But I've been more consistent with it now. We're at maybe 10 or so episodes. But yeah, I'm doing it with Aim to Head. So I do the interview and the editing, and then they put it up to their audience on one of their channels. And yeah, it's been fun. Like we were talking about earlier, being kind of just existing on this island, in a void. Especially during COVID, and especially with where I've ended up living, that doesn't really have a scene for the sort of things that I'm making. I just wanted a way to connect with my fellow creatives face to face and sit down and have chats about stuff that I think is interesting, and then if with any luck, have it be, help create some sort of community, not more organized, but yeah, maybe more organized, because a lot of the artists in the scene, the artists that released with Aim to Head or Moritan are adjacent to that sound. Everybody's kind of doing their own thing. And I thought, everybody's popular in their own right, but if it all kind of comes together and coalesces into something, then all ships rise with the water. So, with luck, it can be a thing that can elevate people and show people new artists that they wouldn't have discovered before, or learn more about artists that they're into who might not otherwise get to, sit down in an interview and talk about their art.
Yeah, absolutely. Very relatable goals.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's exactly what you're doing here.
Yeah, I mean, and I absolutely, and I think there's tremendous benefit to it in the sense of, and I mean, Void Signal. This past Friday was just my 100th episode published with Phil Gonzo.
And congratulations, dude.
Oh, thank you. But I do agree with you, and I think one of the most sort of, to me at least, one of the more important components of doing something like that, of doing a podcast or kind of what you're describing, a meeting of people, a creation of a scene, is that all the discourse that can come from it. We're going to have a conversation about how I make my art, and I struggle on this, or I found that this worked for me, or just being able to take, because we're talking about things that these nebulous concepts that we usually don't talk about. And so the ability to talk about them is maybe limited. And so practicing it by talking to another person of like, well, this is my approach. Or I feel like there's so much to be gained by just sort of sandpapering yourself against people in social situations and like listening to what they have to say and learning from them and like, paying attention to like what they are passionate about, because they will inform a lot if you just listen, sort of. So I can admire that goal very much, because I mean, trying to do the same thing of like, here's all these small artists that are doing interesting things or creating interesting things that have perspective that you won't get to hear if you are just sort of, drifting in the wind, so to speak.
Yeah, drifting about on the internet.
Yeah,
at the whims of the algorithm. Yeah, man.
Yeah, agree. And I think there's value in that. But the other thing too, is the other component to that real quick that I'll add is that I heard somebody say in passing that all the things and all the institutions and the things that we had when like we were growing up of like cool things, like we have to make that shit now for others to find. Like we are the next sort of the old guard is gone, and we have anything cool that we want to be there for next generations, we have to make and put in place. And I think podcasts and sort of music hubs or DJs or sort of avenues of like, even if it's just like, I'm a Twitch DJ, this is my personality, but hey, listen to these artists that, don't have listeners, don't have streams. I'm bringing them to you in a curated sort of a fashion. Tremendous value in that, I think.
Yeah, totally.
That's cool. I'm glad that you're doing that. Like I am all for like more people doing that, like more discussion, more, more discourse. That's a good thing. And just to edit your or not to echo your sentiments. Editing is is terrible. It was I used to write like text interviews, like doing magazine interviews, and I was like, I thought transcription was awful. I was like, it was the reason I made a podcast. I'm like, I don't want to do this ever again. Where like, let me type out what this person said and then pause it, and then fucking nobody wants to do that.
Yeah, and I feel like I feel like a lot is lost in that, because the way people talk and the way people would give a written response is quite different, I think, on average. So I don't know. I guess it depends on the person. But I've read some, NPR interviews or something that are transcribed, and it's sort of like, I feel like you miss some of the delivery of the smaller words that in writing might not have as much meaning, but the pauses and inflections, convey the meaning in audio. So yeah, I'm a big fan.
Yeah, 100%. Agree completely, because simple words, but delivery, tone, inflection, all that like affects the message. That's the context for it, I feel like.
Absolutely.
Well, aside from how cool podcasts are, I did want to sort of put to you. So, show is down. The singles are rolling out pretty regularly. Album is on the horizon. But what is the future of Mobius for you? Like, is there a milestone that you have in mind next of like, this is what I want to accomplish and then I'll reassess, or what's on the horizon?
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, I've been talking about doing an album for like at least 3 years now, I reckon.
Sure.
So that's my whole plan for this year was I wanted to do a bunch of collaborations with people that I admire and that their art excites me, and kind of use those as ways to explore things that I might not do otherwise. Like whether that's, like exploring styles and genres, etc., that I might not do, and kind of treat each one as like its own little contained experiment, and just like rubbing your brains together in conversation. I think that when you're collaborating with people whose work that you admire, you can pick up a lot from what they're doing, hopefully at least, and then kind of incorporate bits and pieces of what they're doing into what you're doing, the parts that you like, and then transmute that. So I want to make myself a nice buffer, which is well on its way, honestly, to pad out releases for this year. I think this year will be by far the most releases of any year that on record for me. I think we're there's another song dropping next week, so that'll be 7, and then hopefully like, I don't know, between 13 and 15 songs for this year. So yeah, build myself a buffer with the collaborations, and then dig in and do the absolute best I can with taking this kind of kaleidoscope of work that I've done over the last few years and update and transform and puzzle together how I want it to be, and try to come up with a cohesive body of work. So that's my primary focus, is creating this the best that I can make it to be. Albums are quote unquote dead, I suppose. Everything is single based now for the attention span of the modern human. So it's really just more, I'd say it's more for myself, because I feel like I have to do it.
Right.
And I want to get a clear idea of what I want to do moving forward, and figure out what excites me and what I'm capable of, and also what people respond to, on some level. Because if there's something that I rather enjoy, but everybody just fucking hates, then, maybe that'll be a side project instead.
Right.
So yeah, it'll be that. We're working on, my girlfriend is a costume designer, or she's a fashion designer rather, I should say. And so she's working with me to design the look of the new era. And my brother works down at Weta Workshop in New Zealand. And so he's helping me put together like a mask that will be part of it. So
Nice.
It'll be new visual branding, and updated sonic identity, and etc., and try to play more shows, try to get out there a bit more in the world. And then that's kind of that's where the benchmark ends. And if I can get this project out that's been brewing for this long, if I can prove to myself that it's possible to finish it and have it be something that I'm proud of, then I'm hoping that it will give me a clearer idea of the message that I'm trying to communicate with my music, as well as a direction that I want to take my music going forward past that.
Real quick follow-up question on that. Do you feel like you've obviously been making music and putting it out there and everything, but do you feel like you know what your message is?
Kinda.
Okay. Good enough
yeah.
for like, okay.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that I think are important, but it's something that I think about a lot, and it's gone through a lot of iterations. And at the moment, to be honest with you, it's been kind of backburnered in favor of just violent forward action.
Sure.
Just writing and getting what's in there out, and kind of with the intention of, once it's all out there, in front of me, being able to ascertain clearly, like, all right, I see the through line here. Like, I see what I'm really trying to do. So, much like journaling or something, where you kind of have to vomit all your thoughts onto the page, and then you're like, oh, like that's the problem. where, it seems obvious in retrospect, but when you're in the middle of it, it's not always so clear.
Right.
But at the moment, I think it would be some variation of, you're going to have to edit out my pause here. Good answer, and my brain is slow.
No, totally fine. And I mean, I also feel like it's a thing that it's hard to have an answer for, because I mean, you have to, like you said, and sort of what you were alluding to is that like you kind of have to just do it, and then it will. To me, it's like it's the marble, right? Like David is in here, like you have to chip away to get to that point. So
Yeah.
I feel like at least for a lot of artists, and it sounds like in your case of like, I am producing the marble. It has to be chiseled away to find the underneath, sort of a thing.
Yeah. We have a rough shape though. We're it's recognizable as a semi-human figure at this point.
Sure.
I think it's something that life is really difficult. Like just day-to-day life is hard and it throws shit at you. And moreover, I think for many of us, we struggle a lot with like our brain, whether that's just, low self-esteem or mental health issues or anxiety or imposter syndrome or addiction, some of which I've struggled with personally, others not. And I think that I want to show with my music or convey with my music that be that as it may, and as important as those experiences are to go through, because that's how you grow as a person, like they can be overcome and you can take those things that feel like inherently limiting factors and you can turn those into your strengths, and you can make like those can be the things that make you unique and special, and also empowering to inspiring to other people, who've watched you go through and overcome and persevere, and you can carry that forward. So
Agree.
I'll figure out a way to shrink that down to a sentence or two at some point, but that's the general gist of it.
Yeah. No, I mean, that makes perfect sense. And I mean, I do agree with you of existence is hard, and everybody's sort of going through it in different ways and at different speeds, but it's like character is action. Aristotle kind of said that. And so to me, I think there's a lot of just sort of on the note of like surviving things and how you handle the things around you. Like, I think that's where your character is honed out, of like your actions in the face of adversity is who you are. Yeah. And so I think hammering that out is sort of an important amount of growth for a lot of people. Because if you never have to do that, if you were always sort of avoiding difficult situations, I feel like growth is not going to happen. You are stagnant.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of like the meme of like, were you hot in high school, or do you have a personality? That's sort of extrapolated outwards.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Very concise. Well, on that note, I sort of somewhat related, I will go ahead and put the last question of the podcast to you, which is, what is something that you have been enjoying recently? And your answer can be anything, book, video game, TV, movie, just what's something that you're jazzed about when you wake up?
Oh, and when I wake up, I'm jazzed when I wake up too early and I can go back to sleep.
Oh.
but other than that, entertainment-wise, I wish I could shout out artists. I've been barely listening to music at all. I know. X-Men 97.
Oh,
fucking slaps. I was never into X-Men as a kid. I was too young. I missed the show. And so I saw somebody recommend this. The guy who just tattooed me, actually, James Gerard, who's a fantastic artist and definitely worth checking out. But yeah, I think I saw him post about it and I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. Like, I'll give it a spin and like watch the first episode. I was like, oh, it's kind of like a kid's cartoon, but I'll give it another shot. And I watched the second one and I was like, oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
This is what's up. And then, binge the whole thing. I never watch shows week to week. Like, I don't care enough. But that one I watched week to week for like the second half of its run. Very good.
Yes, agree.
Very good show.
Yeah, 100%. And I watched it back in the day and was like big into the comics when I was a teenager. So like to have it revisited so well, and sort of also, I mean, just sort of watching it, it was, I mean, the themes that X-Men have sort of has always dealt with are relevant. timeless to a degree, unfortunately, but
Yeah.
feels maybe
More relevant now than ever.
yeah, exactly. It feels more timely than ever, I guess. And sort of, I like the sort of modern, the new take on it, the fresh sort of a look at old problems, I guess. But yeah, I
Hmm.
really loved it. Just binged the fuck out of it, watched it week to week, couldn't wait to get through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah, I feel like it's nice to see, as a fan of Star Wars, it's nice to see an old property get revisited with, like, love and passion,
Mm,
and people who like really cared about it, and understood the core idea of it,
mm,
and were able to recreate, or not recreate, but like continue on from where it left in like
hmm
a respectful way while still expanding it. Like, and
Yeah.
then yeah, the themes of like of being different and like not being accepted, and there not being a clean solution. It's like, yeah, it's just really hard.
hmm
And you just have to do it day by day.
hmm And
Yeah.
I admire that the X-Men 97 doesn't shy away from getting dark about things. Of like, this is uh, and using a lot of words and rhetoric. Sort of, it's smart. I guess is what I like about it, is that it's not just like dumb filler like a kid's cartoon. It is addressing very serious topics in sort of smart ways and saying smart things about them.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
it doesn't talk down to the audience. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know. What do you think? Do you have kids? Would you let your kid watch it?
I don't have kids, but I would definitely let my kids watch this for sure.
Okay.
Of like,
Yeah, I couldn't quite
here's
tell because
a
it is.
dramatized version of human life, and so we're dealing with very big, heavy human themes of genocide and xenophobia and so on. Yeah, those are big and heavy, but like this is a place where those themes can be explored. This is,
Mhm.
I feel like this is the universe for it, of like, gaining some understanding, some perspective. So yeah, I think I
Mhm.
would. Would you?
Yeah, I think so. I don't.
Yeah,
It's hard. I don't really watch things with that filter, but I was
sure.
like, wow, this is really intense. But I didn't pause and consider like how scary or like how violent it actually is. Because I guess
Mm.
you could show a kid it, and 90% of it would probably fly over their head. They're like, oh, sick, like explosions and energy balls and like Wolverine and stuff.
Yeah.
And then they maybe they come back, and on their third watch through, they start picking up on what people are saying, and
Mhm.
go from there.
I
Because
mean,
you watched it as a kid, right? So
yeah.
did you pick up some of that when you were watching the show as a kid?
Um, a little bit of it, but like you said, I think it was you're lured in with one thing, right? Of like, oh, mutants and they have these powers and they're cool and they have costumes and so on. But it's you start
Mhm.
reading it and then it's like, oh, the story is about being the other and being the outcast. And I identified a lot with that as a teenager, as a lot of us will, sure.
Mhm.
But yeah, absolutely. It was a thing that like I was lured in by the one thing and then came back for the other. And real quick, you mentioned Star Wars, and I grew up loving Star Wars. I don't love it nearly as much as I used to, as I used to. But
Yeah.
I just have to mention Andor. While we're talking
Oh
about
yeah,
like good
best one
series
by
to
far.
watch. Oh, 100%. Just
Yeah.
speaking of like themes that are being grappled with in a contextualized space, I I loved Andor, and even for people who are not into Star Wars, like a story about radicalization and how it can happen to disparate figures of like this is how one person falls to fascism and this is how one person falls to anti-fascism, basically rebellion. And I just loved it. It was so compelling from start to finish. So good.
Yeah, absolutely. That one was.
Hmm
Yeah, that was another show where it was just like week to week, like give me more. I need to see like edge of the seat every time. And then
hmm
yeah, really good writing, like really human characters. Same with X-Men, like just well written
hmm
human characters with flaws and like
hmm
relatable struggles, and
Yeah.
then expressed in a really compelling way.
hmm
And just a real breath of fresh air between like Boba Fett and the Kenobi shows.
Yeah. Um,
Mm.
I
Hmm.
I I watched the Kenobi show. I regret it immensely. I because I watched Andor and I was like, this is great. This makes me love Star Wars again. Let me watch Obi-Wan. And I'm like, this is not. This makes me hate Star Wars again. Let me not watch this.
Yeah,
uh,
it's a painful time.
Mm-hmm.
to be a Star Wars fan.
Yeah, because some things are wonderful. Like the Mandalorian has been pretty great. I'm not fully caught up on it, maybe, but it's fine. But like Andor was the thing that like stood out to me of like, this is something special. This is a story that transcends the borders of this intellectual property. I feel like X-Men 97 is kind of the same thing. Like even if somebody is not an X-Men fan, like you can sit down and watch this and appreciate what's going on. I feel like.
Oh yeah, totally.
For
like
sure.
I watched maybe the first 5 episodes or something, and I was like, oh shit, this is really good. And so I made my girlfriend watch it, who has never been interested in X-Men or comics or superheroes that much or that deeply before, and she got really into it too.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a testament to good writing and passionate people with a clear vision for the project.
Yeah, agreed. And good writing, I think, is can help a thing transcend to be beyond what the confines of what it is. And I feel like that's true for music too. Like you will hear some artists or some musicians that like they go beyond the confines of whatever genre they're operating in. Like, oh, of course, everybody's heard of this band. They're the best, they're good enough to sort of overcome all those barriers. That's why we have like a Health or a Behemoth or a this band, or take your pick of like talented people that sort of stand outside.
Or why Korn was always ranking on what was it? What was the after not TLC? Total Request Live.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Back in the day.
Like you'd have Justin. I'm too young for this, but I watch too much YouTube, so I'm aware. But yeah, like you'd have like Britney Spears and NSYNC and Christina Aguilera, and then like Korn would always be at top like number 3 or something, which is just crazy because like their music is so out there. But it was like you're saying that level of quality that it sort of transcended into a much broader audience that could appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, just to answer the question myself really quick too, I always just say what I'm enjoying recently. The answer I have actually is I installed it's open beta weekend for this game on Steam, Warhammer 40K Speed Freaks, and it is.
Oh my God, I just saw. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, no, totally.
I'm stoked.
I finally got into it and started playing it, and it reminds me very much of like old games I used to play growing up, like Twisted Metal and Critical Depth, and like the Transformers games, like vehicular combat kind of stuff. So in love with it. It's such a blast, like explosions and like low stakes fun and action, and like it's a good, like, I'm going to pick this up and play it for an hour, and I'm going to chat with my friends while I do, because I don't really have to pay all that much attention, right? Yeah. So it really has been such a blast to play and work through. But that's what I've been enjoying recently.
So that's an open beta? Like I could play this, or did I miss it?
No, it is still going through for the next couple of days, I think, maybe through the next week. But it is to coincide with the Warhammer Skulls Festival on Steam. You just go to the Speed Freaks Steam page and hit. By the time this episode comes out, this will be long over. But you go in and you just hit request access, and then you can download and start playing. All right. But it's been a blast. It was a thing that I was like, this could be cool, but could be shitty. I'll just wish list it until it comes out. But it's it's been.
That's exactly what I did.
I have a lot of games like that. Of like, I'm not gonna pay. We'll wait for reviews. But it's been fun. It's been a blast. Like very low stakes. Just like let's blow shit up. I'm a fan of that.
Yeah. I love that I saw the trailer for that yesterday because I opened Steam to play something else, and they had the Warhammer Festival sale going on, and I was like, "What's this?" And I was like, "Did they just make a game where you're just a bunch of orcs like racing around, blowing each other up?" And then yes, they did, and I was like, "Oh my God, it makes so much sense." But like, thank you Warhammer for having such ridiculous. They're not super tight with their intellectual property, which can be good, and it can also be bad. But like this, and didn't they release like a power washer simulator tie-in game where you're like the Adeptus Mechanicus washing off tanks and titans and shit.
Yeah, you're like washing land raiders and shit. Yeah,
they know their audience, and just memes, dude.
Yeah.
Hilarious. But I appreciate it. I'm here for it.
100%. Warhammer is like one of the things that like was so easy for me to get into because it was like, hey, here's this sci-fi universe or a fantasy universe, whichever flavor you want. But everything is just over the fucking top. Like just everything is turned all the way up. Like, hey, here's the Imperium of Ban, this hyper realized fascist version of humans, and here's all these other concepts and things. It's just Warhammer, bless.
Yeah 100%. Shout out Warhammer. I'm really surprised by how many people I talk to are into Warhammer. I thought it was much more niche than it is. Maybe just the music that I've made in this community sort of just tends towards a bunch of like nerds, which is fine by me. But yeah, always happy to learn how many people are as into Warhammer as I am.
Yeah, agreed. And I feel like 40K specifically lends itself a lot to the aesthetic and vibes that sort of like yourself and a lot of other musicians and contemporaries in the scene are sort of driving at. A sort of like dystopian future, like, and the soundtracks for a lot of these games too are like industrial soundtracks. I mean, like the Dark Tide soundtrack with by Jesper Kyd has been amazing to listen to. A lot of those songs are just like ready to be dropped into a club already. Just really fantastic stuff.
What was that? Is it Mechanicus?
Oh yeah,
is that a game?
Yeah, that's the turn-based one, right? Like
yeah. My brother turned me onto that soundtrack. Also, like really good stuff.
I have that one installed, and I have not played it, so I will based on that.
I can't say anything towards the game. I have no idea what it's like, but the soundtrack.
I like
the Necromancer or something like that. I don't know.
Oh yeah,
I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, fair enough.
Bangers.
I will check it out. It is my kind of thing. Like I like turn-based games. Like that was the thing I hated when I was younger. I was like too impatient. But now that I've gotten older, I'm like, oh, I'll meticulously set up my turns so my dudes can do this bullshit or whatever.
Yeah. They're Children of the Omnissiah. That's by Guam. I can't pronounce it.
Okay. Fair enough.
Guam. I won't embarrass myself. It's something Italian. I'm sure it's beautiful.
And incidentally, it is on sale right now.
Beautiful. Next podcast sponsored by Warhammer 40,000 Mechanicus.
Sponsored by Games Workshop. Yeah, I wish. We'll get there. They've got the money for it, but we'll see. All right. Well, that is it. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out and having a chat. I appreciate your time very much and for making it work. And thank you so much.
Yeah, man. Thanks again. It was nice to sit down and chat with you.
Yeah, much appreciate it. All right.
Void Signal intro and outro courtesy of Processor. Visit processor2.bandcamp.com for more Processor, and visit voidsignal.net to help support the creation of more Void Signal. Stay safe, stay loud.